Throwaway BC, my stepdad is always snooping through my social media, and I don't need him finding this. So I, male, 17, am being told I'm an ungrateful brat for not wanting to share every detail of my life with my stepdad, male, 42, who married my mom, female, 39, 8 months ago. I feel like I'm going crazy because everyone's acting like I'm being unreasonable for wanting basic privacy. Am I the idiot for not telling him where I go after school? Okay, so some background. My dad died 18 months ago, car accident, and it's been just me and my mom since then, until she started dating my stepdad about a year ago. They got married pretty quick, which honestly felt weird, but whatever. She seemed happy for the first time in forever, so I tried to be cool with it. But this guy has been so controlling from day one. Like, I get that he wants to be part of the family or whatever, but he immediately started asking a million questions about everything I do. Where am I going? Who am I with? What am I spending money on? When will I be back? And he always says it's about building trust and being responsible, but it just feels like getting questioned every single time. The thing is, I go somewhere twice a week after school, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm gone for about 2 hours. It's something private that I don't really want to talk about with him. My mom knows what it is, and she told me months ago that it was my private thing, and I didn't have to discuss it with anyone if I didn't want to. But apparently that doesn't apply to my stepdad, who thinks he has some right to know every detail of my schedule. So last Tuesday I come home around 5:30, and this guy is sitting at the kitchen table with this little notebook. I'm not even kidding. He's been writing down what time I leave school and what time I get home for like 3 weeks apparently. He shows me all these dates and times, and he's like, explain the gap. Turns out, he'd been following me. He actually parked across from my school at 3:30 to spy on me and see which direction I went, which is so creepy I can't even, like what grown man does that? When I got home, he was waiting with his stupid notebook showing me all the evidence and demanding to know where I disappear to every Tuesday and Thursday. I told him it was none of his business, which I know sounds bratty, but come on. And that just made him more angry. He starts going on about how he can't have a stepson who lies to him and how he has responsibilities as head of household to know where family members are. Which, first of all, when did he become head of household? My mom was doing fine before he showed up. The whole thing was just crazy. He's listing all these concerning things he's noticed, being secretive, mood changes, the fact that I still carry my dad's old wallet. Yeah, that really bothers him for some reason. I tried to tell him it's just normal teenage stuff, but he got more angry and said if I won't be honest about what I'm doing, he's gonna start picking me up from school like I'm some little kid. I'm 17 years old. 17. And this man I barely know wants to humiliate me in front of my entire school because I won't tell him where I spend 2 hours twice a week. So I went to my mom hoping she'd back me up, but she didn't. She got all defensive about him at first, saying he gives us stability we need, and I should just try to understand his position. But when I asked what she meant by need, she got super flustered and mentioned something about how we couldn't make the mortgage payments before he moved in, which was news to me, honestly. I mean, I knew money was tight after Dad died, but I didn't realize it was that bad. Now I'm wondering if my mom literally can't afford to stand up to him because she needs his income. She ended up begging me to just keep the peace for now, which basically means give in to whatever he wants. I don't know what to do here. Part of me feels bad because I know he's trying to be a dad figure or whatever, and maybe I should appreciate that he cares enough to worry about where I am. But mostly I just feel angry that this guy thinks he can show up and start controlling every aspect of my life just because he married my mom. And honestly, the place I go isn't even anything bad. It's not like I'm doing drugs or getting in trouble. It's actually something that's helping me deal with losing my dad. But the fact that he demands to know makes me not want to tell him even more, you know? Like, why should I have to justify my private time to someone who's been in my life for 8 months? I keep thinking about what my real dad would say about all this. He always told me I had a right to privacy and that trust is earned, not demanded. My stepdad seems to think respect and trust should just be automatic because he married my mom, but that's not how it works for me. My friends think he's being totally unreasonable and I should just ignore him. But my mom is clearly stressed about money, and I don't want to make things harder for her. At the same time, I'm not ready to give up the one thing that's helping me process everything that's happened. So am I the idiot for not telling my stepdad where I go after school? Should I just suck it up and tell him to keep the peace? Or is it okay to want some boundaries even if it causes problems? Edit 1. Since people are asking, no, my mom doesn't know he's been tracking my schedule or that he followed me. I haven't told her about the notebook yet because I don't want to stress her out more when she's already worried about money. Now for the first update. Update. You were all right about him not letting this go. I don't even know where to begin with what happened since my last post. Things got so much worse, and now I'm wondering if my whole family has been lying to me about basically everything. So remember how my stepdad threatened to pick me up from school, like some little kid, if I didn't tell him where I go on Tuesdays and Thursdays? Yeah, well, after a couple awkward days where we basically avoided each other, he actually did it. And it was every bit as humiliating as you'd expect. I should probably mention that after that whole notebook confrontation last Tuesday, I started paying more attention to what he was doing, and that's when I noticed some weird stuff. Like my stepdad has been leaving for work every morning in his usual button-down shirt and slacks, coming back at normal times, but he's been super stressed lately. Always checking his phone, looking anxious, making these random comments about keeping up appearances and how our family needs to look stable to outside people. Whatever that means. And my mom. God, my mom has been doing this stress cleaning thing where she'll obsessively reorganize the kitchen cabinets at like 6 a.m. when she thinks nobody's watching. Plus, there's been all these whispered conversations between them that stop the second I walk into a room. Both of them just standing there looking guilty as hell. But anyway, back to the school thing. Last Thursday, I'm walking out with my friends after school, and there's my stepdad parked right by the main entrance, not even trying to be subtle about it. My friend Jake asked if that was my stepdad, and I wanted to crawl into a hole and disappear. So I have to walk over there while like half my grade is watching, because of course this happens right when everyone's leaving. And he tells me to get in because he's making sure I get home safely, loudly. Like he wanted everyone to hear that he's picking me up because apparently I can't be trusted to get home on my own. The car ride was absolutely awful. He kept talking about family responsibility and honesty, and how disappointed he was that I forced him to do this. I'm just sitting there wanting to die of embarrassment and getting more pissed off by the minute. When we got home, I completely lost it. I told him that embarrassing me in front of my entire school was ridiculous and controlling, and that he had no right to humiliate me like that. He got all defensive and said it was my own fault for being secretive. That's when I made the mistake of saying something like, "You're not my dad and you don't get to control me just because you married my mom." Which, okay, yeah, probably not the smartest thing to say, but I was so angry and embarrassed and just done with his whole authority trip. He went completely quiet for like 10 seconds and then started talking in this really controlled voice about how he is the head of household now and he has responsibilities to this family. Then he said some stuff about how he's trying to provide stability and security that some people don't appreciate. The whole fight just kept escalating, and my mom came home in the middle of it and immediately started trying to mediate, but also low-key taking his side again. I still hadn't told her about the notebook or him following me, so she seemed confused about why things had gotten so bad. She kept saying stuff like, "We all need to work together," and "This family has been through enough stress," which just made me feel even more like the problem. But here's where it gets really weird. That night I couldn't sleep, shocking I know, and around 11 p.m. I heard my stepdad talking on the phone downstairs. I probably shouldn't have, but I snuck out to the hallway to listen because something about his tone seemed off. I couldn't hear everything, but I definitely caught him saying stuff like, "The family can't know how bad it is and need to maintain professional image," and something about the next contract coming through. At one point he said he needed to secure the household position before anyone found out about the job situation. And that's when it hit me. The stress, the weird comments about appearances, the obsessing over bills and budget stuff he never cared about before. I don't think he actually has a job anymore. So the next morning I cornered my mom while she was doing her stress cleaning routine in the kitchen. I straight up asked her if my stepdad was still employed, because I'd overheard him talking about contracts and job situations. Her face went completely white. At first, she tried to say I must have misunderstood or heard wrong, but when I quoted back the exact phrases about maintaining professional image in the next contract, she just started crying. Turns out my stepdad got laid off 3 months ago. My mom explained that they've been burning through savings and she's been picking up extra shifts, but it's not sustainable much longer. That's why she's been so stressed about keeping him happy. We really do need him to find another job soon. 3 months. He's been leaving the house every morning, pretending to go to work and only getting small freelance projects here and there. My mom begged me not to confront him about it because he's already struggling with his pride and doesn't want anyone to know, which explains so much. The controlling stuff, the obsession with being head of household, how desperate he is to prove he's providing stability. He's probably scared that if I don't respect his authority, everything falls apart. But here's the thing that's really bothering me. Even after my mom admitted all this, she's still acting sketchy. Like when I try to ask more questions about money or how long this has been going on, she gets defensive and says some things are too complicated for a teenager to understand. I feel like there's still more she's not telling me. The way she looks away when I ask if that's really everything, the fact that she keeps emphasizing how I need to be patient with my stepdad. I don't know. Maybe I'm paranoid, but it feels like there's another shoe waiting to drop. So now I'm sitting here realizing that my stepdad's whole controlling thing isn't just about wanting to be a father figure. He's literally desperate to prove he belongs in this family because without that, what is he? An unemployed guy who married a widow and can't even support her kid. I almost feel bad for him, but also I'm still pissed about the school thing and all the lying, and I'm worried about what other stuff my mom isn't telling me. I don't know what to do with any of this information. Do I pretend I don't know about the job thing? Do I keep pushing for the truth? Part of me wants to be more understanding now that I know he's struggling, but another part of me is angry that they've been lying to me for months. This whole situation is so messed up, and I feel like I'm the only one who doesn't know what's actually going on in my own house. Edit 1. Since people are asking, no, I still haven't told him where I go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Honestly, after everything that's happened, I'm even less likely to share that with him now. Edit 2. To those saying I should just tell my mom I know about the job, I did try, but she immediately got all stressed and made me promise not to say anything to him. She seems more worried about protecting his feelings than being honest with me, which is frustrating. Edit 3. Yes, I realize this probably explains why he's been so interested in our household expenses lately. I'm guessing he's trying to figure out how to make our budget work without his regular income. Still doesn't excuse the controlling stuff though. Now for the second update. Throwaway again, because apparently my life keeps getting worse in ways I didn't think were possible. You guys were right about there being more my mom wasn't telling me. I should have listened when everyone said to keep pushing for answers, because holy shit, there's way more going on than I thought. So after my last post where I found out about my stepdad losing his job, I've been paying way more attention to the weird stuff happening around the house. Like my mom doing that stress cleaning thing at like 6 a.m. when she thinks nobody's awake. She reorganized the same kitchen cabinet 3 times this week. And all the whispered phone calls that stop the second I walk into a room. Yesterday morning, I got up early to get some water and found my mom scrubbing the bathroom tiles with a toothbrush at 6:15 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing? And she just starts crying again, which honestly, I'm getting really tired of because every time I ask a simple question, she breaks down. But this time, I didn't let it go. I sat down on the bathroom floor. I know, weird place for a heart-to-heart, but whatever, and told her I could tell there was still stuff she wasn't saying and that I'm 17, not 7, so maybe she could just be honest with me for once. She got all defensive at first, but when I said, Mom, you're stress cleaning the grout at 6 a.m., something else is wrong, she finally cracked. Turns out, and I swear I'm not making this up because I know how insane this sounds, my stepdad has been meeting with a family lawyer for the past month about his legal position in our household, about his rights and responsibilities regarding my inheritance money from when my dad died. I literally didn't even know I had inheritance money. Like nobody ever told me there was money involved. I thought my dad just left us with the house and some savings that got used up on funeral expenses and stuff. But apparently there's this whole trust fund situation that I get access to when I turn 18 in like 4 months. Which now explains why his controlling ways have been getting worse lately as the date gets closer. And my stepdad, who again has been in my life for 8 months and unemployed for 3 of those, has been helping manage this money as the head of household and is now worried about protecting the family's financial future when I become legally able to access it. My mom tried to spin it like he's just being responsible and looking out for my best interests. But when I asked her point blank what he was worried would happen when I turn 18, she got all flustered and said something about how he told the lawyer he was concerned about my emotional instability and whether I was mature enough to handle financial decisions without proper oversight. I'm sorry, what? This man who's been tracking my schedule in a notebook and following me around town thinks I'm emotionally unstable. The more questions I asked, the more it became clear that my stepdad has basically been positioning himself as my legal guardian or something, so he can keep control over the money even after I'm 18. My mom kept saying stuff about how he just wants to make sure I don't make impulsive decisions and how family finances are complicated, but it's my money from my dad. I was already pretty pissed about all this when I got home from hanging out with friends yesterday afternoon. But then things got so much worse. I walk into the kitchen and my stepdad is sitting at the table with these papers spread out in front of him. They looked familiar, but I couldn't figure out why until I got closer and realized they were therapy session summaries from my therapy sessions. Apparently this genius had just figured out that since he manages our family insurance, something he only started doing last month when mom got overwhelmed with everything, he could log into the insurance portal and look at claims and session notes. He had printed out summaries from my sessions for the past 2 months and was just sitting there reading through them like they were his personal entertainment. When I asked him what the hell he was doing, he got all matter-of-fact about it and said he had every right as the person managing family medical benefits to review what he was paying for and ensure I was receiving appropriate care. Like he was doing me some kind of favor. I was so shocked I didn't even know what to say. This man read my private therapy notes. Things I said about missing my dad, about feeling like an outsider in my own house, about not trusting him. Everything. When I asked her about it later, she said she had no idea he could access therapy records through the insurance portal. She thought medical privacy laws would prevent that kind of thing. But it gets worse. At dinner, he starts making these little comments about stuff I had talked about in therapy. Like when my mom mentioned that she picked up extra shifts this week, he looked right at me and said something about how maybe if certain people spent less time telling strangers how terrible their family is, they'd appreciate the stability they have. Then when I didn't respond, he kept going. Started talking about how kids these days don't understand the difference between wanting attention and actually having problems, and how some people use therapy as an excuse to avoid taking responsibility for their action. I'm sitting there realizing that every private thing I've ever said to my therapist has been read and judged by this man, and he's now using it against me at dinner like some kind of psychological warfare. The final straw was when he said something I'll never forget because it made me feel sick. That maybe if I focused less on living in the past with my father's memory and more on appreciating what I have now, this family could actually function. I couldn't. I got up from the table without saying anything, went to my room and packed a bag, grabbed some clothes, my chargers, my dad's wallet, which yes, still bothers him apparently, and just walked out. I'm staying at my friend Jake's house, and his parents are cool with it for now. I texted my mom that I was safe but wasn't coming home, and that's when my stepdad started blowing up my phone. The text started normal-ish but got crazy fast. By text 5, he was threatening to call the police and saying I was being manipulative just like your father was. Which, excuse me, my dad died in a car accident, but sure, let's make that about manipulation somehow. By text 10, he was going on about how I was destroying this family with my selfishness, and how he'd sacrificed everything to give me stability. Reminder, he's unemployed, and that I was proving his point about emotional instability. I screenshot everything and posted it on my Instagram story with a caption explaining why I left home. Basically, just said my stepdad violated my therapy privacy and was using my private sessions against me. And these were his texts when I decided I needed space. I wasn't trying to make it go viral or anything. I just wanted my friends to know why I wasn't home in case people asked. But then my cousin Sarah saw my story and shared the screenshots to Facebook asking our extended family to check on me because she was worried. And that's when everything exploded. Within 3 hours, I had aunts and uncles and family friends calling and texting asking what was happening. My mom's phone was apparently ringing nonstop. My stepdad went from sending threatening texts to begging me to delete everything because it was destroying his reputation and making it impossible for him to find work. Which, Maybe don't violate a teenager's therapy privacy if you're worried about your reputation. Just a thought. He showed up at Jake's house this morning trying to force me to come home, saying he'd call the cops if I didn't delete the posts and stop spreading lies about him. Jake's dad had to tell him to leave the property. The thing is, I'm starting to realize this isn't just about privacy or control anymore. This is about my inheritance money and him trying to maintain legal authority over me so he can keep accessing it. Everything makes sense now. The desperate need to be head of household, the lawyer meetings, even reading my therapy notes to build a case that I'm too unstable to handle my own finances. My mom has been texting me begging to come home and work this out as a family, but I told her I'll consider deleting the posts when her husband considers respecting my privacy and stops trying to control my inheritance money. I don't know what happens next. Jake's parents said I can stay through the weekend, but I need to figure out something longer term. I think I need to talk to a lawyer myself about protecting my dad's money from my stepdad's oversight. This whole situation is so messed up. 6 months ago, my biggest problem was getting through junior year, and now I'm basically homeless because my stepdad thinks he owns me and my future. I keep thinking about what my dad would say about all this. He always told me to stand up for myself and not let anyone push me around, even family. I think he'd be proud that I'm not backing down, but he'd also probably be devastated that this is what his money has caused. I just want my normal life back. I want to grieve my dad in peace, go to therapy without worrying about it being used against me, and turn 18 without having to fight some unemployed control freak for access to my own inheritance. Is that really too much to ask? Edit. To everyone asking about the inheritance, I honestly had no idea it existed until yesterday. My mom never mentioned any trust fund or anything, just said dad left us taken care of, which I thought meant like normal savings. Finding out there's enough money that my stepdad is hiring lawyers to control it is a lot to process. Edit 2. Yes, I know posting the texts was probably not the most mature way to handle this, but I was angry and hurt and wanted people to see what he was really like. I'm not proud of putting everything on social media, but I also don't regret it because now at least people know who he really is.